welcome back, peeps, to another wonderful episode of the World of Ted, where we explore how single Latter-day Saints can learn, live, and love truly enjoyable dating. I found a blog post on this guy's personal blog. Let me just go ahead and pull that up, and we will dive right into this. It is a little dated, but as we've seen so far, here on the World of Ted, that's perfectly okay. So here we've got commentary on the passing scene, musings on this and that. And here we've got a blog post by Kengo 1969. I actually recognize Kengo from previous episodes of the World of Ted. He's posted on that MDDB forum, and so I recognized him. And of course, this is a little dated. You can see 2013. But hey, now I don't know what he's going to say here, but because I haven't read this through, but we'll find out together on being single, male, and LDS. Single men, second-class citizens in the church. And I guess Kengo's real name is Ken K. Gordon. Or Gordon? I'm sure I'm not quite pronouncing that right, but be that as it may, here we go. As members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we believe the Lord's greatest blessings are received by couples who receive the faith's highest ordinance, marriage, referred to as sealing, in one of the faith's temples. I'm going to take issue with that. You know what? I am. I'm start right at the bat. I'm going to take issue with that. We believe the Lord's greatest blessings are received by couples who have received the faith's highest ordinance in one of the faith's temples. Yeah, that kind of implies that you have to get married in this life in order to have access to the Lord's greatest blessings. And I'm just not on board with that. Those blessings, however, will not be withheld from women who depart this life not having had the opportunity to receive that ordinance. Still, what of single men in the church? I recently wrote the following at Mormon Dialogue and Discussion Board. While there is a certain strain of thought in the Church of Jesus Christ, gravely mistaken in my view, particularly as regards men, since social custom dictates that we do the asking, that the clock is ticking for us. If we men depart this life not having been sealed, then our fate, as ministering angels, as opposed to small g God, Mormon believe that faithful couples who've been married will be exalted to small g Godhood, while those who do not desire to be sealed to a spouse, but are otherwise faithful, will become ministering angels, and those who do desire to be sealed, but were not in this life, will receive that opportunity to a suitable mate in the hereafter, is sealed. I don't believe that, because it removes moral agency, for which Christ spilled his blood and died, from the equation. Just as his single daughters are not single-class citizens in his kingdom, nor are his single sons. In response to a poster who expressed angst over when and whom he might marry, another poster said the following: if you are super jealous of those who have had the opportunity to marry, or who have done so at a comparatively young age, decide you are going to marry someone and get to figuring out whom. Fix whatever is holding you back. Change whatever you need to change, and or go looking in places where you are more likely to find someone. Your poster name suggests you struggle with this. His moniker is Video Game Junkie. yeah, totally, man. I'm right on line with this, okay? If you're not getting the results that you want, then you need to change something about you so that you get the results that you want, because results come from one thing and one thing only, and that is action. You must take action. So if you're not getting the results you want, it's because your action is not aligned with the results that you want. Your action is aligned with the results you're getting. So if you want different action, you got to take different, you want different results, you got to take different action. That's pretty simple. And that seems to be what this guy's thing. And your poster name, you struggle with this. His moniker is a video game junkie. Yeah, if all you're doing is sitting around playing video games, dude, I got news for you. That's not going to be attractive to a quality woman. Quality women are not attracted to men who just flit their time away and aren't being productive. I mean, if all you do is spend your time consuming, and that's what you're doing when you're playing video games, you're just consuming the content of the video game, then, I mean, what's going to entice a quality woman to be with you? So, think about this from the woman's perspective. I mean, you're not building a life that, in her estimation, is worth sharing. You're not building a life that she's going to want to share. So why would she say yes to you? Again, I love what this said. Decide you're going to marry someone. Okay, first of all, you got to make a commitment that you're actually going to do this. You're going to do whatever it takes to make the changes in you that need to be made so that you can get the results that you want. And then you got to get to busy, fix it. Fix whatever is holding you back. Change whatever you need to change. And or go looking in places where you're more likely to find someone. So you got to make yourself a more viable prospect, and you got to increase the probability you're going to cross paths with someone that's going to be attracted to the person you are, that's going to think that the person you are is good enough. So, I like that. Now, here's what Kingo responds. With no disrespect, without even the slightest desire to give offense, I agree with you, by the way, that an inordinate amount of time spent in non-social pursuits, what, you mean like posting on message boards, can be counterproductive to achieving certain goals. That's great advice, and it often works, except when it doesn't. Except when it doesn't? Many people in the church would hold me solely and entirely responsible for my current plight as a long-term bachelor. Yeah, and I'm one of them. And I can speak because I am a long-term bachelor. They would also be very wrong to do so. No. They're very right to do so. Your results come from your action, and your action are your choices. You choose to take the action that you've chosen. Your results are coming from your action, which comes from your choices. You're responsible. And this is the thing. See, this is why you're a long-term bachelor. Because you haven't taken responsibility for yourself. You haven't owned your life. When you own your life and take responsibility for your choices, take responsibility for your results, regardless of where those results come, because so many of us are so quick to say, well, it's not my fault. This other person, these other people, they continually choose against me. I'm sorry. These are people who are playing the victim. And you'll never be a victor while you play the victim. You want to be a victor? You want to be victorious over your circumstances? You've got to start by owning your life. It's your life. Own it. Take responsibility for whatever results you have in your life, because that sets you up to make the commitment to do whatever it takes to make the changes you need to make to get the life you want. And until you do that, until you own your life, you will never be committed to making the changes you need to make to get the life you say you want. It just doesn't work any other way. As much as I might be frustrated with that plight on some level, although I'm at least trying to learn to avoid being defined by what I lack, I would never want to abridge the moral agency of the women I've dated, expressed interest in, and or had slightly longer-term relationships with. Dude, what are you getting at, man? Okay, so it seems like what he's saying here is, I'm a long-term bachelor because other people have decided, and because of this is the result of the decisions of other people. And again, dude, you've got to start taking responsibility for yourself. Own your life, man. Own your life. I think we need to be careful to avoid laying the blame, bad word I know, for such a state of affairs at a single person's feet, both single in the marital sense and single in the numerical sense, when two people need to choose to exercise their agency in order to pursue a relationship with one another and attempt to determine their mutual eternal suitability. Oh my goodness. Okay, here's part of the problem. Taking ownership of your life, owning your life, taking responsibility for the results that you have is not about blame. There's a difference between blame and responsibility. There's a difference. I'm going to say it again. There's a difference between blame and responsibility. Blame is all about assessing guilt. But responsibility is all about assessing action. And so we don't even talk about blame, because it's not productive to talk about blame. Because all you're doing is talk about, so who's supposed to feel guilty, right? Who's supposed to feel guilty? Oh, and if they don't feel guilty, oh, that makes us so mad. They are to blame. They should feel guilty and they don't. I mean, that's so unproductive. What's more productive is to talk about responsibility. Responsibility is concerned about, okay, these are the results we have. Who's going to take action? And of course, if you're going to own your life, you have to take responsibility for your life. And this emphasis, and I understand where you're coming from, because I used to be there too, brother. But this emphasis on, you got to have two people deciding. You're abdicating your power. You're surrendering it. You're basically saying, there's a piece of this that's outside of my control. I don't have any control over this, and it's not my fault. So you're stuck in the blame mentality. And instead, you need to shift that and get into the responsibility mentality and say, okay, what am I going to do to change the situation so that the other person uses agency in my favor? That's taking responsibility for your life. Oh, gosh. Sometimes I think we treat the problem of long-term single status in the church as a problem that someone like me could solve simply by choosing someone he thinks would be a suitable mate, bopping her over the head, being sealed to her while she's unconscious. Agency, how the church version of free will is so overrated. Well, no, I don't agree with that. I don't think it's overrated at all. Agency is the perfect word, because the choice that we have as to what we will do, what we will say, what we will think, all of that is about all that is centered around the use of what we have. How I think is basically a choice in, what assumptions I'm going to have and the knowledge that I'm going to have and how am I going to use that knowledge, and, what I say and what I do, choices in how I use the knowledge and how I shape my thinking processes that I have. And, what do I do with the resources that I have? Time, money, energy, physical items, whatever. These, all those choices are about basically, how are you being an agent with what you have? So agency is the perfect word to describe how we're using the choice that we have before us. It's not overrated at all. Well, she'll get used to the idea eventually after she wakes up. See, this is part of your problem too, brother. Underlying all of this type of talk is this idea that you really believe deep down inside that you are not worth liking, that you're not going to be liked, that deep down inside there's a problem with you, and that they know it, and that's why the ladies don't want anything to do with you. And you just got to get over that, brother. You've got to come to a place where you get good with you, because I could tell you're not really good with you on the inside. You're here with this fear of, well, the only reason she would be with me is some sort of external circumstance that forces her to be with me. That's what you've created here with what you're saying with your words. So, again, I'm just like, come on. Now, here's an update that he posted in 2014. So a year after he wrote, actually not quite a year, because it was October of 2013 that he wrote the post. And then now it's an update from March of 2014. So that's what, 5 months? Dissatisfaction with God's beyond the veil propositions. A common lament among gay people. Oh, here we go, talking about people with homosexual tendencies. I don't want to be straight in the next life either. Really? I don't know that many church members. At least I don't know that I know that many. I mean, I know some, but I don't know that I've heard from them, I don't want to be straight in the next life either. Okay. I wrote the following on MDB, and while it's true, I have absolutely no idea what it's like to be gay. I think it's relevant to God's dealings with single people generally, so I thought I'd post it as an update here. Okay, let's see what this says. I don't know how God's going to sort out the complicated issue of human relationships there either. I simply have faith that he will. I know at least one of the brethren has said the same-sex attraction won't exist after the resurrection. But I don't know of any official pronouncement from the prophet or from the 15 on the subject. I don't know what will happen then. I don't know whether I'll meet the future Mrs. Go 1969 on this side of the veil or on the other side of the veil. I do know whatever happens, we will retain our agency. Well, that's true. As important as I believe the commandments to husband and wife to become one flesh to multiply plenitude are, God isn't going to fulfill them or to allow others to attempt to fulfill them by abridging anybody's agency. Perhaps the one lesson my long and tortured, sick and twisted social life has taught me that perhaps I'll take with me to my grave is that you can't manufacture chemistry. If it ain't there, it ain't there. I disagree with that. Just because you don't understand the chemical reactions that are, and it's not called chemistry. Because it seems like chemistry. You put two things together and poof, you get this reaction that comes out. But it really is a description of, biochemical reactions that are occurring in your brain. This thing we call chemistry. That's really what it is, biochemical reaction. And as is true with any chemical reaction, if you get the right reactants together in the right amounts, in the right environment, the reaction goes forward and you get the products that come out of that reaction. So, just because you don't understand what the right reactants are or what the right amounts are, what the right environment is, doesn't mean that those things aren't existing and that you can't put them together to put the reaction to go forward. So yeah, if it ain't there, it ain't there. So, if it ain't there, it's because you don't have the right reactants in the right amounts in the right environment. That's all there is to it. I could obsess about what's going to happen in the afterlife. Will there be slim pickings? Oh, please. No, there won't be. Given how hard it has been to persuade anybody on this side of the veil to explore the possibility of an LTR with me, how much convincing will it take on the other side of the veil? Well, things are going to change on the other side of the veil, my brother. Because here's the thing. You've got a different environment. That's the most succinct way to say it. Basically, what that means is there are a lot of people in this life, and certainly this is true amongst the Latter-day Saint crowd, that are making dating decisions based on the natural man and the natural woman. We've talked about this before. I'm going to keep talking about it because it's so important. You're making decisions based on the natural man and the natural woman. And, when you're making these dating decisions based on this mindset, You're only considering what's important for this world and this life. When you pass on to the other side of the veil, it's going to become a lot more clear that a lot of those values that pertain to this life and this world aren't going to be valued so much anymore. Now, people will carry with them habits from this life into the next. So if you have a habit of valuing the things of this world in this life, that habit can carry with you over to the next life. So even though, those values aren't really going to pertain to the next life, you're still going to have the habit of valuing those things. But you've also got time on your side. You've got a lot of time to basically detox yourself of this, natural mindset and replace it with a covenant mindset, which will be much more consistent with life after this one. So, you gotta be careful about how you extrapolate on into the next life. Yeah, I think you can do that somewhat, but it's not gonna have the same sense of permanency that you're feeling that it has in this life. Is the whole thing simply going to be one long stake singles dance where almost everybody else brought a date and the rest of us are simply desperate? No, it's not going to be like that at all, because see, there's two things that you gotta have. First of all, you've got to be good enough. Okay, you've got to be good enough in the eyes of the other person in order to secure that agreement that you need to make progress in your dating journey. That's the first thing you need. So you've got to be offering something in you. You've got to be offering a life. You've got to be offering yourself as being good enough. You got to make a good enough proposition, so that you become agreeable enough, right? That's the first step. And then you've got to cross paths with somebody who sees what you're offering as good enough. So it's the two things. And I think in the next life, it's not going to be like it's described here. Long stick singles dance. The rest of us are simply desperate. No, it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like that at all, because it's going to be a lot easier to cross paths with somebody who thinks that you're good enough. And as I just got done saying, the environment has changed. In the next life, everything changes. And so, I think that there's some danger that you got here, bro, with trying to extrapolate too much into the next life. And I don't think you're taking into consideration a lot of the changes that are going to take place. Some of which we don't know about, by the way. We don't know about some of the changes that are going to take place, but we can be assured, like it says in the New Testament, it's like, eye have not seen, ear have not heard, your mind cannot conceive how glorious it's going to be when you get your eternal reward. It's just going to be so absolutely incredibly wonderful. But yeah, where everyone else brings a day, the rest of us simply desperate. That doesn't sound like my ideal vision of eternity. And if it's not, and so don't worry about it. That's not the way it's going to be, or at least of eternity's beginning either. I don't know how God's going to work it out. I don't think he's going to have to apologize to any of us. Yeah, you're right. He's not. Sorry, I know you were hoping for better, but this is the best I could do. No. No, there's not going to be any of that. I don't think we're going to say to him, you know what? If this is the best you could do, thanks, but no thanks. Eternal ministering angelhood will be fine. Yeah, we're not going to say that either. We're not going to say that either, and then that looks like the end of the article. So yeah, I agree. We're not going to say that either. It's like, if you really want it and you keep putting forth the best effort that you can, eventually in this life or the next, it's going to work out for you. That saying, I want to, now that we're at the end of this article, I want to leave you with this final thought. And that is this, that if you really want it to happen in this life, there's a way you can go about it that's more productive, more effective. It will take time. It's not this, fly-by-night thing that's, coming out of somebody's garage. It's not some overnight, quick hack. Okay. There's nothing to hack. Okay. It does. You just have to understand the fundamentals of the dating journey, and you've got to master those fundamentals so thoroughly that when it comes time to execute, you just do. And there's no struggle, there's no excessive thought about it. You just do. And you execute masterfully. And the fundamentals are things that we talk about here on this program. We talk about on Join the Journey Radio. So if you're not a JJ Zoner, then, go to the website, Join the Journey Radio, sign up now, and, get yourself integrated to all the past episodes of Join the Journey Radio. Start understanding more about the fundamentals of the dating journey. I've got lots of resources, on the Join the Journey Radio YouTube channel. I've got books. I've got all sorts of stuff that can help you understand better, what those fundamentals are. And you also need to make changes in you. I mean, honestly, if you're going to make, the only two levers you have to change, you can change yourself and you can change your environment. Those are the only two levers you got. So really your options are making changes only in you, making changes only in your environment, making changes in yourself and your environment, or making no changes whatsoever. Making no changes whatsoever is the last thing you should do. So that's the last choice I offer you. Because if you don't make any change, you're not going to get any different results. If you make changes in you, that's the first choice. And the reason why it's the first choice is because it should always be your get-go. What can I change in me to get a different result? What can I change in me to get a different result? Kengo doesn't seem to have this attitude yet of owning his life. He doesn't have the attitude of, well, I got to make changes in me. He's too caught up in this mentality of, why can't they just love me for me? And then I don't have to make any changes in myself. Yeah, no, that's not the way it works. One of the fundamental principles of the dating journey is you have to have an agreement to advance to each stage of the journey. You have to have the agreement connected with that stage. And then you're not going to get an agreement unless you're agreeable enough. So if you're not getting the agreement, it's because you're not agreeable enough. So what change can you make in you to become agreeable enough? I'm sorry, we all want to have this attitude where it's just like, yeah, you know what? We want this thing to just show up in our backyard without us having to make any changes in ourselves. But that's why we're frustrated. Frustration is a sign you're going about something the wrong way. And so many of us singles are frustrated with this approach because this approach is backwards. This approach is ineffective. It doesn't work. So quit waiting and wishing and hoping and wanting and just come to a point where you just own your life. Start making decisions on you. Start making changes in you. And, like I said, this is a process that takes time. It's not overnight, but it's way more effective than just sitting there and sulking in your misery and wishing that things would change without you making any changes in you. The reason why you're not getting any change in your results is because you're not taking action to change you. So take the action to change you and, start engaging a much better journey, towards the things that you want in your life. And that's my final thought. So that's all the time we have here for, the world of Ted. If you like this video, please, press the like button. Help me get through the YouTube algorithms so we can spread this message to so many more people and help them out. And, leave comments below, questions. If you want to start a discussion, the forums below, people. So use it. And, don't forget, come back next time for another wonderful episode of the World of Ted, where we explore how single married saints can learn, live, and love truly enjoyable dating. See you next time.